ഹലോ ഗൈസ്, ഫുട്ബോൾ പ്രേമി പോഡ്കാസ്റ്റിന്റെ നെക്സ്റ്റ് എപ്പിസോഡിലേക്ക് എല്ലാവർക്കും സ്വാഗതം. ഇന്ന് ഞങ്ങൾ കവർ ചെയ്യാൻ പോകുന്നത് വൺ ഓഫ് ദി ഹോട്ട് ടോപ്പിക്സ്, ദി മോസ്റ്റ് കോൺട്രവേഴ്ഷ്യൽ ടോപ്പിക്സ് ഇൻ പ്രീമിയർ ലീഗ് ആസ് ഓഫ് ഡേറ്റ്. ഒന്നര കൊല്ലം പോലും ആവാതെ ഇംപ്ലിമെന്റേഷന് ശേഷം ഇത്രയധികം ടോക്കിംഗ് പോയിന്റ്സും ചർച്ചകളും വിമർശനങ്ങളും നേരിടേണ്ടി വന്ന VAR, what the Football Premi group likes to call as very arbitrary refereeing. അതിനെപ്പറ്റിയാണ് നമ്മൾ ചർച്ച ചെയ്യാൻ പോകുന്നത്. Our in-house panel today, Sabarish, Shyam and Bala joins us for this session. Before we begin, guys, I think one thing is important. VAR എന്ത് ഡിസിഷൻസിനെയാണ് നോക്കുക and എന്തിനെ നോക്കില്ല എന്നുള്ളത് ക്ലാരിഫൈ ചെയ്യാൻ to an extent I think is required. So for our viewers, what VAR covers is whether there is a goal or not, whether it is a penalty or not, a red card offense, and offside, of course. Yellow card is not within VAR scope, even if രണ്ടാമത്തെ yellow card that is leading to red card ആണെങ്കിലും അത് VAR സ്കോപ്പിൽ ഇല്ല. പെനാൽറ്റി ബോക്സിന്റെ just outside ഉള്ള fouls that leads to direct free kicks, even that is not VAR scope. So മേൽ പറഞ്ഞ 4 കാര്യങ്ങളാണ് 2019-20 സീസൺ തുടക്കം മുതൽ പ്രീമിയർ ലീഗിൽ ഇംപ്ലിമെന്റ് ചെയ്ത വാർ കവർ ചെയ്യും എന്ന് പറഞ്ഞത്.
Just a ticky-tack point. One other thing that VAR covers is mistaken identity. Like ref gives a card to the wrong player. That's also picked up by VAR.
Kyron Gibbs would agree to that. So would Oxlade-Chamberlain. So yes, I think fair to say, okay, not fair to say, more accurate to say VAR has had more incorrect calls than correct calls. നമ്മൾ നോക്കുകയാണെങ്കിൽ not that I'm not going by the number of calls that were right versus wrong, but the impact it has made to an extent has been more on the negative side. കാരണം കുറെ ടീമുകൾ പോയിന്റ് നഷ്ടപ്പെട്ടതായും അല്ലെങ്കിൽ വെരി 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 മൈന്യൂട്ട് മാർജിന് ഗോൾസ് മിസ്സായതായുമുള്ള സിറ്റുവേഷൻസ് നമ്മൾ കണ്ടിട്ടുണ്ട്. സോ ലെറ്റ്സ് സ്റ്റാർട്ട് അറ്റ് what do you guys think is right or is good, and what do you guys think is bad about a video assistant referee?
I think, see, if I would give a start, right, in terms of life before VAR and life after VAR, right, the idea was really great because, the blatant offsides or, blatant incorrect calls can be removed, right? You get an additional help. But the point I never supported was that you are assigning a referee to a game, right? Now you're taking the control away from that person. He's live between those 22 players. He exactly knows. Sometimes a game is run by passion, emotion, or whatever you call it, right? And you cannot just give the power to somebody who is sitting 100 miles away in front of a laptop or a monitor and controlling all this with numbers. They should just give, like we do, like, they have these monitors set up. Just tell the referee to go and take an additional look. If you have any doubt, you have missed something, or even VAR can interject and say that, hey, like in last game, the Richarlison red card, right? Say, for example, it was like a coming together, and Michael misses that. VAR could give an, help saying that, you want to take a look. Usually the fourth referee usually does that, if he says something.
I think other ഉണ്ട്. കാരണം I mean, these days the watches that referees carry while officiating has a notification that goes saying there is a VAR check that needs to be done. എനിക്ക് തോന്നുന്നു കാരണം during every of those incidents അവരത് നോക്കിയിട്ട് yes.
അതെ, പക്ഷേ വാർ ചെക്ക് റെഫറി നടത്തുന്ന ഞാൻ പറയും instead of Stockley Park or wherever it's being done right now, because it takes referee കാര്യത്തിൽ maybe they put this that way because the pressure goes away from him, right? Everything is on there, but as a player, and as a referee, he is now unknown. What is that other guy going to make a decision on? And now there is a difference in, sometimes like for example Atkinson, right, as a referee, he allows physical contact in a game. If you see all his games, he's a referee who does not, usually like if he gives a slight push, he'll just say move on. Whereas there are referees like Anthony Taylor, the moment somebody goes down, he goes away. So there's a difference in, and it's a personality thing. We have seen in our when we play also, we test the referees always. First few times we foul and see if he is not budging, we we'll go with full tackles, or else we'll be very careful, right?
Actually quite accurate. കാരണം അത് മാത്രല്ല, ഇപ്പൊ ഒരു ഡിസിഷൻ കൊടുത്ത് if you have like very vocally strong leaders or players on the pitch, അവർ റെഫറിനെ പ്രഷറൈസ് ചെയ്താൽ eventually some of them but some of them don't. So that power is also being taken away.
Correct. And I've seen every time the referee goes to the monitor, the decisions have always been correct. I think future Crispy, he went a few times. Moss went a few times. There are few refs who like that control on their side. They like to go. Atkinson goes a few times. Atkinson gets a lot of stick, especially from non-Man United fans. But I really like him as a ref because he lets the game continue. He doesn't get into these silly fouls, and he likes the game to be physical. So defenders are another guy, and then he always likes to go to the monitor. Whereas Michael Oliver is the best ref, they say, but I've never seen him go to the monitor. He always, depends on the call. So I think the implementation is wrong. Right? Go ahead.
I think even now the final decision still sits with the on-field referee. VAR is only providing. It is. The final decision is still with the on-field referee. VAR only provides heads up that there is a clear and obvious error which has happened. So they actually they recommend the referee to use the sideline monitor if they so choose. But in the end, it is still only a consultancy service, so to speak. It's not a decision that's being overruled from the VAR booth. So the VAR is only saying, okay, maybe you want to take a second look here.
But
I think that got introduced this year, right? The referee review area actually came into effect only this season. But last season, it was like Shabu said, it was completely in control of the VAR referee who is making those decisions. The on-field referee just get it on his ear that this is a penalty rather than no incident, versus this is an offside versus no offside. So this time around, they have tweaked it a little bit. There is a review area. Linesmen have been told to keep their flag down for offside decisions so that the play can continue, and then the offside calls can happen later. So there is some tweaking to be done. So in my opinion, when VAR was first brought in, I was one of the staunch opponents of bringing technology in that layer. I mean, I'm okay with the goal line technology, but the other one, because that human element is the part where the errors, the wrong calls, the right calls, they are all the ones bring down drama in the game, right? I mean, it doesn't have to be like
your favor, yes.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't have to be black and white all the time, right? So there needs to be gray area.
Fair point.
Yeah, but if you look at it, offside calls right now. Look at offside calls right now. Previously, it was up to the linesman to raise the flag when there's an offside. Now you are actually counting fingernails and inches, and then you draw vertical lines and all those things. You are making black and white decisions, and of course, one set of fans is going to be unhappy about it. But that's the way of life if you choose VAR, right? I mean, you're going to have, if you're inch offside, you're inch offside. If you're not an inch offside, you're not an inch offside.
Right.
Black and white.
I mean, even though I'm against flagging offside, lines and millimeters and sleeve lengths and hair's length was all of us play. As an attacker, you always try and time your run behind the defender or ahead of the defender, and that is what is in your mind. Now, you're having to think of another dimension. What time? Because even if I put like half of my boot ahead of the last line, I'm still going to be
your hand. Your hand, right? I mean, they're even counting your hand.
I mean, Korea games, even last season, United away at Crystal Palace, Jordan Ayew goal disallowed in the early second half. It was hardly an offside. I mean, of course, I was happy that Palace did not score, but you feel for the guy, right? He's timed his run, he's made that run, he's made the finish, but still getting pulled off. So even Giroud headed goal against United, Mason Mount and across the super header in the workshop. So from the striker's point, I'm against calling offside with lines, but still that's fair as long as it.
Like I was reading about it, right? So mine in the offside and they have an algorithm where they look at the frames per second of the video when it freezes. So it's like 40 frames per second. And they look at the player who is on contention. So if it is Marcus Rashford, he runs 22 kilometers per hour. And if it is Mane, he runs 21.5 kilometers at acceleration or speed. these numbers calculated it. Algorithm says how many percentage is offside. So that screen we do not see. So there is a guy who's showing a UI screen on, and he was saying that number cannot be revealed because it's like a Pandora's box.
Yeah, I mean, if that even if that algorithm goes out, right? That is throws out, right?
അതുകൊണ്ടാണ് അവർ റിവീൽ ചെയ്യാത്തത്. അതുകൊണ്ടാണ്
ഈ complete procedure reveal ചെയ്താൽ that's going to
that's going to be crazy.
Yeah, I was surprised that there are games where Firmino has looked offside. The same line വരയ്ക്കുമ്പോൾ, but they never give it. But Mane Salah ആണെങ്കിൽ അപ്പോ offside ആണ്. അപ്പോൾ there is some like Rashford ഇടയ്ക്കിടയ്ക്ക് കിട്ടും. കാരണം Rashford is the fastest one in terms of acceleration അവരുടെ ലിസ്റ്റിൽ. And അപ്പോൾ it is foolish. Somebody thought it's like really smart way to do it, but I think it's ridiculous.
And that is my biggest point against it. That's the offside കാര്യം. I can still live with it as long as it is consistent. Offside ആണെങ്കിലും red card ആണെങ്കിലും handball rules ആണെങ്കിലും if it is consistent, every team gets it the same way or not, അങ്ങനെയാണെങ്കിൽ I can still live with it. But ഇത് clearly അങ്ങനെയല്ല. ചില direct falls ഒക്കെ ഇപ്പോൾ ankle stamp ചെയ്യുന്നത് in one incident you see it being given as a red card. Next day that completely waived off. അപ്പോൾ ആ inconsistency ആണ് I can't live with.
So I think by bringing in VAR, I don't think we will get rid of the inconsistency, right? Because even if you bring like Bala was saying, if you're giving the power to the referee on field, he's human, so those inconsistencies are going to stay as long as how he sees the incident. Like even if it's a foul or a stamp, how he sees the incident. Like Shabu was saying, he's the one who's on the play. He knows that whether the guy meant it or didn't mean it, or whether he slipped, whether he didn't slip. VAR wouldn't check that, because in slow motion everything looks like a very malicious foul, when in real time it may not have been, right? So that's why I think the control still needs to be with on-field referee, and he should use the review area a lot more on those kind of incidents like handball, red card.
Said, Arsene Wenger has said one suggestion to thicken that line. He said that the last defender ഒരു ലൈനല്ല വരയ്ക്കുന്നത്. Arsene Wenger is saying that including his arm's length, right? അത്രയും ലെങ്ത്തിൽ if you thicken the length, then the confusion of offside is ankle length, toe length, like Jota had an offside I think against Liverpool, and not Jota, I think Pedro Neto, and then there was one against Sheffield versus Arsenal. It was like a toe length, and it is inconclusive because 40 rates per second എപ്പോഴാണ് ball is being kicked and എപ്പോഴാണ് ഇവൻ offside ആവുന്നത് ക്ലിയർ അല്ല. അപ്പോൾ ആർസൻ പറയുന്നത് just thicken that line, give them that benefit of doubt, give the striker, because he's making those runs, he has to time it, his body angle should be moving forward, so his shoulder will be dropping forward. അതെല്ലാം നോക്കിയിട്ട് Wenger said, and UEFA liked it. UEFA was saying that let's try it. But I think the software companies who implemented the current one, they are, I think, lobbying it again. They're like, oh, Arsene Wenger does not know he's a dinosaur and all that. So,
no, I mean, like, if Arsene Wenger is Arsene Wenger will always vouch for the striker, right? Because he's more of an attacking manager. If you ask somebody like Allegri or Mourinho, if you ask them, they'll say defenders are training for the offside line a lot. They are looking up to their they are waiting. So it goes both ways is what I'm saying. So offside calls, like Jithin was mentioning, it always has to be black and white, because you cannot put gray area in offside line, because the problem is then you get arguments both ways. I mean, one team is always going to be unhappy about it, right? Either the defensive team or the offensive team. The other incidents, I think it should be left to the on-field referee for review. VAR should just intervene and then say that you should go take a look, and then it should be the referee who should take those decisions.
I think
if you look at it, right, Tottenham Newcastle game, Andy Carroll headed and it hit Dyer's hand.
Newcastle was on his way down from the header, like in the back.
Right. Newcastle was so smart; they immediately, kicked the ball out. And they rammed the referee, put all the pressure. Referee had to call. Referee was like, okay, let me call VAR. Whereas on the same thing against Crystal Palace and Everton, Crystal Palace didn't even appeal. Anders Townsend was still trying to score the goal. So now you will see that all the players will be like kicking the ball out or kicking into a corner flag and just going and swarming the referee. It's bad for the game, right? It's completely bad. They're like, call a ref. I don't know. There's
one thing.
Mm-hmm.
One thing I was thinking, maybe if that helps, okay, because like Jithin said, your offside call has to be black and white. There is no room for a gray area in the offside call. And looking at what VAR is already doing in the other parts of the game, such as when it is checking penalties, one of the things that VAR checks in penalties is the goalkeeper on the line. So his foot has to be planted on, at least one foot has to be planted on one line. So there's a definite mark on the ground on which you are referring that. And the other thing they check is encroachment, right? So all the attacking players have to be behind the penalty box and the arc even. So they stepping on that line is encroachment actually. So you have very defined black and white when it comes to goalkeeper being on the line and your attacking players being outside the box. Why can't we use the same sort of a concept using just the player's feet, right? Because there is no point in you checking somebody's sleeve or somebody's shoulder, and there is a concept that you have to look at it below the armpit. Now you have full sleeve shirt wearing players, half sleeve shirt wearing players. Where is the armpit? How do you refer them come to that conclusion based on an image that you have frozen? Why don't you just use the feet and the line? You can draw two parallel lines on the ground where the feet of the last defender is, where the foot of the offending offensive player is. It's a simple, yes or no. It's binary.
Yeah, I think that's fair. Yeah, I think that's fair.
So I think one of the reasons why VAR is
the key they have been making is like somebody can head the ball, so head should be also considered.
Yeah,
those are the
any part of
that
the body that you can score with unlock.
But then you could also potentially look at it as somebody can head it when it is encroaching into the penalty area, right? Our currently are only judging by the foot. Why do you always judge?
Very good point.
I think the subtler point why it is not like that is when a side is attacking, when you think of it, the forward is always running towards the attack, towards the goalpost of the opponent. The defender is always tracking back. So in that way, when you think of it, it's not fair that you can allow a forward to lean forward, gain the momentum while his foot is still behind the last man, because his feet may still be behind him, but he already has that momentum. They said any part of the body that you can score with, but of course that brings a lot more gray area to the offside calls. I agree.
So then you can Shabu പറഞ്ഞ പോലെ you might have to start doing things like if it is a Rashford, he has to be half a yard behind. He has to be half a yard forward, right?
I mean, if pace is considered, definitely something like that.
But I will layman question, how do you expect a player to maintain the same levels of acceleration throughout the season?
Correct. That is
the season, how do you expect a player to be fit?
And also, some strikers, they curve their run, right? At that time, they are slowing down and then they just ramp up. So you cannot measure all that. But what I understand from that, it was an article in Medium. They are saying that the refs are shown the probability of offside, right?
The moment you bring probability, there's the model itself.
No, that's always gray area, right?
And the ref is asked, like, do you want to proceed with it or not? And they say that is why
who decides what threshold should be kept, above which you should consider it a yes versus no. Anyway, I think we have tackled the second question quite extensively, what we want to discuss. Last thing, before we close the session, given an average football fan VAR, I don't think anyone would call it a success yet.
Yes.
Though there is potential, like we have been discussing what are some of the good things. So should VAR be staying in Premier League as well as other major leagues in let's say European football to start with? VAR, what should it restrict itself to? What should it completely leave it to the ref? Like in plain white statements. Endana include endana exclude from the current scope of VAR, so that it becomes a success and it becomes, let's say, fairer in deciding how games end, so to speak.
Yeah, to me, see, VAR is here to stay. It's not going away. Okay, things that you can do is probably improve it. Use whatever you are learning from last season, this season, to kind of reduce the errors. I think I read somewhere that the stat is like the VAR decisions are like 82% right, so which is still 1 in 5 that they're getting wrong. And these are 5 crucial decisions in a game that they are coming across, and one of them they're getting wrong. That's big, in my opinion, when it comes to things like promotion, relegation, titles, and all those things. Right? So it is still a work in progress, and I think the challenges VAR is facing,
or a Champions League semi-final where you don't end up winning 5-3, you still end up losing 4-3.
Right.
Right. And See, the main thing is the challenge that is still facing is that the VAR decision making is still human. The VAR is looking at all these additional data points, but still a human being who's doing that. There are still mistakes that are happening there. I would say classic example is what we looked at in the Liverpool game, right? The VAR was focused only on whether or not Virgil van Dijk is offside, not on the fact that whatever else happened after that. So it's almost like if there's an offside call, you can go ahead and literally kill your opponent, right? Because that's not going to get reviewed. You're just going to have the offside call judged and that's it. So those kind of things are still, I think those are human errors that are still happening. And the big problem is the Premier League is not owning up to these mistakes. They're not saying anything to the effect that, okay, this happened. They put a hands up and say, okay, we'll do better next time.
I mean, you hit the nail on the head, Bala. The biggest flaw, if I have to pick one, is the same point that you made, right? Van Dijk in the case. The rule book states if it is a how do you call it? If it is a challenge that is dangerous, quote unquote, within the moment of the offside, you still can deem to like qualify to being given a card or not. Our statement, let's say if there are 10 referee panelists on the VAR panel, not everyone is in agreement. 7 of them think they can, 3 of them think they cannot. So even there's a gray area. You create a panel of VAR refs who can take that call. We're in a complete agreement. So like you said, that needs to be checked first.
So, in my opinion, I do not think, a VAR referee or a VAR and artificial intelligence system or something like that should be left with those decisions. What I'm saying is I said was, if Van Dijk was offside, that decision should also be reviewed by the on-field referee. VAR should tell him review this decision. VAR is also watching the whole match. So he, the person who is behind VAR or behind the VAR camera, he also knows that the Van Dijk Pickford incidents also happened, right? So he should stop the referee and say that, there was an offside call. You should look at it whether offside or not, or let the VAR referee look at it and then say that whether it's offside or not. Also raise the flag that you can see how NFL has 5 referees throwing flag at on each incident, right? It's not the same incident they sometimes throw the flag on. So the other incident, which was the Pickford Van Dijk incident, the VAR referee should, of course, say to the on-field referee that there is this incident that just happened after the offside call, which can be deemed as violent contact or excessive force or something like that, right? And then bring it to the notice of the referee. Let the referee make the call. What I'm saying is don't even let the VAR guy dictate the game from up there. Yeah, make that call. Let the on-field referee make that call. So I mean, human errors is, like Bala said, 82% is still right. I mean, even when I was opponent of VAR, I think last season VAR had a good amount of calls which were absolutely right. I mean, it would have been very unfair if that call didn't go the team's way, right? I mean, so there was a lot of those calls. Of course, the ones which VAR missed or VAR had a wrong one is going to be amplified because it's supposed to be flawless, but it's not going to be flawless, right? You have to bring that human element into the game. Keep technology as an assistant and keep human making those calls, and let the on-field referee be responsible for whatever is happening in the match rather than somebody else with a TV screen.
On the other hand, right, there are some definite glaring gaps that VAR currently has. Okay, I'll give you an example that I read on a online forum as a hypothetical. Okay, and I think it happened also. So you have an attacker who is controlling the ball using his hands inside the D, and he takes a shot. It gets blocked either by the goalkeeper or a defender and rebounds, and the second player actually hits the goal. This situation is not viable.
Correct. It's not part of the previous play.
They can only go up to the player who scored.
Yeah.
They can't go to
it's not scored. It is the part of the play. So the play is
I think it still can, because offsides that lead to offsides and movements that lead to a goal, even
it's
if
not an offside, right? It's a handball.
No, it is
in this particular example I'm talking about, it's a handball.
Striker is controlling with the hand.
The midfielder has controlled the ball with his hand. He has taken a shot. The shot is blocked or saved, rebounded off a defender, and now another striker is coming in and scoring it. And that striker is obviously onside, and he has not done anything wrong. He has not controlled the hand or anything. This is not actually VARable. The VAR referee cannot say it's a handball. He can only check.
I think that's the one I was talking about also. I have seen where there is a foul happening before. I think it was a Man United Liverpool game, right? Last season, where Lindelof, I think, fouled Origi, and then we gone and score on the other end. They could not look at it VAR because it was like you said, it was play was already gone.
Yeah, but also the fact Atkinson did not refer it. So
that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. But VAR needs to. VAR can come to Atkinson to say that, right?
City Liverpool game, Aguero hit Arnold's hand, front Arnold's hand. The game continues. Fabinho scored on the other end, but
Bernardo Silva, correct. Bernardo Silva വീഴുന്ന സമയത്ത്
and then they referred it. The ref said to VAR,
Arnoldന്റെ കൈയാണോ ആദ്യം തട്ടിയത്?
But the ref said, go and take a look at it. So even if had refs looked at it, VAR looked at it and found something, they would have called off the goal. Only thing
but is, my question is, can the VAR not say to the referee that you missed this one incident in the previous play? That cannot be done. You're saying that cannot be done.
It's not done.
Only in the last
so that is a big gap. I think that's what I was trying to point out earlier.
No.
I have never seen VAR pointing out something that is.
That brings back to the point Sabarish initially made, right? Then you are taking a massive part from the guy who is refereeing the match.
Correct.
If VAR can make that call saying, hey, here is something that you have missed and you need to go look at it, then the referee is just like someone who's following orders someone else is making, who is not on the pitch. At the end of this session, what Football Premi, I think, agrees to disagree. Like there are, in my opinion, I think two things that are for sure. One, of course, VAR is going to stay, whether you like it or not. Two, no matter what form or rule book VAR follows, there will always be agreement and disagreement. അതിലും ഒരു മാറ്റം ഉണ്ടാവും പോലെ നിങ്ങൾ 10 റൂള് പുതിയ കൊണ്ടുവന്നാലും ഉള്ള 10 റൂള് മാറ്റിയാലും there will be folks who agree, there will be folks who disagree. The only thing that we can hope is that VAR rectifies in due course the errors that it has made in the 1.5 season that it has been implemented, and this season it learns from the mistakes that it has done, and it finds a provision to correct for it. The only real hope that we can keep is what I feel. We are ending this session of Football Premi podcast session on VAR. As usual, it's a humble request to do watch our videos. We are a group of passionate football fans who join week in, week out from all parts across the world to try and create content purely because we like doing it, purely because we are passionate about the sport. So Kanuga, support Jiga, share the videos, share the content, like, subscribe. Own Fantasy Premier League league under Football Premi, which has prizes for the winners. So those who are into Fantasy Premier League do join the mini league, the code for which is given in the description. See you on the next episodes of our usual game week reviews and fantasy tips. So thank you all. Have a good day.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.